Hey, good morning. I'm Patricia Murphy. It's Tuesday. This is Seattle Now. At the University of Washington, several departments have stopped admitting graduate students for the next school year due to funding cuts and financial uncertainty. They include the Department of Astronomy. Coming up, we'll talk with astronomy professor Emily Levesque about what this means for research at the UW and the astronomy field at large. But first, let's get you caught up. Still more wet, windy weather headed our way. Make sure you plan ahead if you're traveling around western Washington right now and be prepared for power outages. As of late Monday, people in areas of Tukwila, Renton, and Kent were under an evacuation order after a levee on the Green River failed. The National Weather Service says expect more rain and high winds through Wednesday morning. Forecasters predict it may be cold enough for this latest round of precipitation to fall as snow in the mountains, which will cause less runoff into rivers. Seattle's making sure that supermarkets and pharmacies that close down can't block competitors from opening stores in their old spaces. It's a common industry practice, and the city council passed emergency restrictions in October, following several closures in the Seattle area, including the Fred Meyer store in Lake City. There's a public hearing on the issue today, which begins at 1 o'clock. Seattle Now listeners, we keep you up to date twice a day, each weekday and once on Saturday. We know you appreciate it because you tell us. This week, Seattle Now is asking for your financial support. It's KUOW's winter fundraising drive. So, quick reminder, everything you hear on this podcast and KUOW is made possible by your financial support. Do your part today by contributing to KUOW. $5 a month, $10 a month, $20 a month, whatever works for you is just fine with us. Just tap the link in the show notes to get started. Thank you for supporting Seattle Now, and check back for more headlines and flood updates on tonight's episode. December is typically when prospective grad students are scrambling to complete their applications, hoping to land a coveted spot. At the University of Washington, hundreds apply each year for the astronomy department's graduate program, and no more than 7 students get in. But this year, the astronomy department and several others at UW won't be accepting any graduate students. That's due to funding cuts at both the federal and state level and ongoing financial uncertainty. Meanwhile, the Trump administration has proposed cutting NASA's budget next year by 24%, including a funding reduction for the agency's next major space telescope. Emily Levesque is a professor in the UW's astronomy department and author of the book The Last Stargazers.
I think any parent can understand that you want your kid to be able to dream big and to be able to think about studying space or going to other planets or having these big, wild adventures. And this kind of climate has a really stifling effect on people's ability to dream big. And we don't want that to happen on a national scale because elsewhere people are continuing to think like this, and we don't want to be left behind.
She's here now to tell us more about the grad student pause and its impact on the UW and beyond. Emily, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, sorry about the program.
Yeah, it's been a really frustrating and uncertain time.
So, the UW Astronomy Department won't admit any graduate students for the next school year. What led to that decision?
It's exactly what you just described, that there's enormous uncertainty right now around the federal funding and federal support that's available for science. When we admit students, we like to admit them with a commitment that we'll be financially supporting them for the duration of an astronomy PhD, which that can be 4, 5, 6 years.
Wow.
Not knowing what the future holds for astronomy funding in the United States, we wanted to be very careful about making those sorts of promises to the really awesome students who apply here. Right now, we have not made a decision about next year, and we have run graduate admissions every single year except for this one since I started at the University of Washington 10 years ago. So our hope and expectation is that we will return to regular admissions, but astronomy programs all over the country are doing smaller admissions this year. We are not the only program that has canceled, and a big question as we look at the uncertainty around federal funding is whether this is a challenging year that we need to weather or whether this is the new normal. And if it's the second one, then we really have to think carefully about how we admit students to programs, how we ensure we can support them and prepare them for a field that is ready to welcome them. It's something that is a big topic of conversation, not just at UW, but everywhere in the field.
So you're losing an entire class of graduate students. What's the potential impact of that at the University of Washington?
I mean, our graduate students are really fundamental members of the department. They do so much of our really exciting research. They then take that training and they go on to, a lot of our graduate students get really top competitive fellowships in the field. They go out into the broader STEM workforce, and not being able to admit anybody this year means that first you just lose that generation of experts permanently. We hope that students will find the way to pursue their interests in astronomy and their interests in STEM otherwise, but they won't be able to do it here. And it hurts the department not having these brilliant people joining us, not having a cohort of students to join the graduate students we already have. It's a community loss and it's a resource loss.
What sort of things do you study at the UW Astronomy Department? I mean, when I think about astronomy, I think it's big sky, big mystery.
We study big everything. One of the really exciting things that happened at UW not too long ago is we got to watch the first light of the Rubin Observatory. So first light is the moment when you turn a new telescope on. Rubin Observatory was named after Vera Rubin. She's the woman who discovered dark matter. And it's this amazing telescope down in Chile that the University of Washington is a founding partner on. Its job is basically to take a decade-long movie of the night sky. So it's going to survey a huge swath of the southern hemisphere sky over and over every few days for 10 years. And we'll be able to see everything that changes in the sky. If a star explodes, if there's a new asteroid that we want to spot, we'll see it in those images. So this has been a huge area of excitement for UW for years. And just this past June, we got to have this wonderful event in our planetarium where we were admiring these record-breaking, deep, sharp images from that observatory for the first time. So tons of our students and tons of our faculty are hard at work studying those images and just starting to see the discoveries that are coming out of them.
You've written an entire book about the field of astronomy called The Last Stargazers. When you think about this pipeline of students being paused, what do you think about the long-term impact on the field of astronomy? What could this mean?
It's really heartbreaking, especially having to work with these students every day. We have wonderful graduate students at the University of Washington. We also have a very large and vibrant astronomy major. And many of our majors study astronomy because they're just unbearably excited about it, and they want to keep doing it. And it's hard to mentor them and give them advice knowing what a difficult astronomy workforce they're moving into. When I wrote The Last Stargazers, it was a book about what it's like to be an astronomer, because it's just a fun, quirky, unusual, and fairly rare job. In the entire world, there's only about 50,000 professional astronomers. When I looked at the title, I didn't want it to be true. I was thinking of it as something of a warning, saying we have so many people so eager to study the universe. There's so much universe out there. We don't want the bottleneck in the middle to be a temporary funding concern. We want to be able to match enthusiastic scientists and potential STEM professionals with all of these questions we're trying to answer.
Emily, you're a scientist teaching the next generation of scientists. When you look around at what's happening right now with federal cuts to research in different fields of science, what do you think?
It's really disheartening to see this happen, both in astronomy and for science in general. The U.S. has been a leader in so many areas of scientific research for so long, and it seems with the funding priorities that we're looking at that the U.S. is turning away from this kind of leadership. And that's a shame both for the collaborative work that we do with other countries and for our students, because I can tell you people are going to stay interested in astronomy and stay interested in science. And if they can't do it here, they'll just wind up going to other countries where amazing research is being done and taking their talents away from here.
You know, what do you say to people who believe that science can be funded by private industry, that the money isn't gone, it's just not coming from the feds anymore? They think fewer tax dollars should be going towards research at universities like UW.
This is a comment that I hear a lot, and it's first of all worth remembering that scientific research represents a small part of the federal budget. And as I think anybody who listens to public radio understands, even tiny contributions can go a long way. At the same time, the scale of research that we're doing today in astronomy is really something that can only be federally funded. There's a good example of this, that about 100 years ago, An astronomer named George Hale was raising money to build what at the time was going to be the biggest telescope in the world. And he did it with a $6 million grant from the Rockefeller Foundation. And that seems like an example of, oh, fabulous, that is privately funded, that worked out wonderfully. $6 million then is equivalent to $90 million now. And that is not enough to build the kinds of cutting-edge telescopes that we're now working with. Building a Hubble, building a James Webb Space Telescope requires a degree of support that can't come from a private donor, and it's not in the interest of a commercial company. It's something that's done at a federal funding scale and through really international collaboration.
Is there a risk to private funding, or is it part of a solution maybe?
I think private funding is absolutely part of a solution, and private funding has been a crucial component of astronomy since the days of that big telescope 100 years ago. I think that it can no longer be relied upon as the sole source of support. Another wonderful thing about federal funding is that a federally funded observatory becomes a national resource, and the access to that is incredibly broad, that students and researchers at the University of Washington, at community colleges, anywhere that is interested in doing scientific research has the ability to access these facilities, to use them to answer scientific questions, to use their data, and that is a really invaluable resource for the scale of people that are interested in studying astronomy.
From your perspective, what do you think about when you think about solutions?
I would really like people to understand what it is that the current policy is giving up, that we have beautiful working telescopes that NASA runs that are at risk of being shut off or of being severely curtailed. We have brand new telescopes that we want to launch, and funding cuts threaten our ability to launch them. And NASA is really good at building telescopes and facilities like this with huge longevity. A colleague of mine compared turning off some of these telescopes to being like you've bought this beautiful new Maserati, you drive it around for a week, and then you take a sledgehammer to it to save gas money. We have these facilities ready and working, and we have scientists who are experts on them and actively working with the data and making new discoveries every day. And it's so penny-wise, pound-foolish to think about turning them off. And once you turn something like this off, it's very difficult to get back.
All right, Emily, before I let you go, what else do you want our listeners to know about this?
I would like people to understand that astronomy, first of all, is a lot of fun. Every single time I give a presentation about astronomy, I get bombarded with all these questions people have always had about space. Astronomy is also done by people. It's really easy to admire these gorgeous pictures from NASA, from the National Science Foundation, and just revel in the beauty of space. But people took those photos. People built the instruments that took those photos. Graduate students are painstakingly analyzing tiny bits of light in those photos and really unlocking mysteries of the universe from every single piece of that image. So when you're admiring how exciting space is, it's worth thinking about the number of people behind the scenes that are keeping that going. And those people, along with those facilities, are what we need to support to keep this up and keep inspiring people.
Emily Levesque is a professor in the University of Washington's Department of Astronomy. Really appreciate you coming in. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you listening to Seattle Now, and thanks to our generous donors for your support. Today's episode was produced by Andy Hurst. It was edited by Caroline Chamberlain Gomez. Our production team also includes Vaughn Jones, Brooklyn Jamerson Flowers, and Paige Browning. Greg Kramer does our theme music. Seattle Now and KUOW Public Radio are members of the NPR network. I'm Patricia Murphy. See you soon.
The good news is you split the check.
I don't think I could let a woman pay for dinner.
Great. They'll throw a parade in your honor. You'll be Man of the Year in Seattle Magazine.